It is Wednesday, my dudes, and you know what that means? It is time once again to revisit Adventure Woods, the theme park that I'm building in the theme park building video game Planet Coaster. And in today's episode of Adventure Woods, it's going to be a pretty special one, actually. A, because we're going to be building a roller coaster. I know last episode was me building a roller coaster as well, so it's not like that unique in the grand scheme of the present times we find ourselves in. But it is a roller coaster nonetheless, which is an exciting thing to build in a game about building roller coasters. And it's also going to be the final roller coaster that we build in Adventure Woods. And in fact, the final functioning ride, I think. I say functioning ride because I'm going to add a little piece of public transport in a future episode. Next episode, in fact. I won't spoil too much, but it's the studio's backlot tour ride, but it's only there to sort of simulate a bus that would take guests from the car park entrance area to the hotel, which has not been built yet. That's going to be next episode, hence why I'm also building the bus in next episode. This episode, of course, I'm building this ride here. And I'm finally filling in this really annoying section of land. I don't know if you guys remember when I built the flying roller coaster, the Dragon Rider. There was that kind of interchange between the bridge that comes from like where the yellow coaster is. You got that bridge, and then you got like a little crossroads. To the left is the Riverside Restaurant and Star Wheel. Straight ahead is the Dragon Rider roller coaster. But then the path sort of curves to the right as well, because I wanted a path that kind of hugged the curve of that final corner of the flying roller coaster, very inspired by the final corner of Manta, the main inspiration for the flying coaster, Manta being a flying coaster at SeaWorld Orlando, and also one of the helixes at Nemesis, at Alton Towers, where you kind of stand by this fence and the ride rushes past you, blasting you with air. That was really hard to say for some reason, and that was the inspiration for that. But I had to justify the path hugging the corner like that, and until now, that path has always just terminated at the railway line. And I spent a lot of time, a lot of this wasn't documented in the Adventure Woods series because I just spent ages faffing around trying to get the path to do what I wanted it to do, and then I didn't really like the outcome, and then I didn't, follow, and then so I left it basically. So yeah. But then I decided, you know what, let's just screw it, let's build a roller coaster, and we'll put the roller coaster station and the queue line, well actually just the roller coaster station, as this current layout will change. In the final iteration it's going to be basically just the roller coaster station on the other side of the railway tracks, and then the queue line on the other side. The reason this was so difficult was because I didn't want to have a level crossing, like a railway crossing where you just have to look left and right, and if there's no train coming, just cross. Like a lot of theme parks do in real life, to be fair. Because I never really liked that. It feels like a really inelegant solution, and I kind of wanted to if, hypothetically, little Johnny went missing, he wouldn't be in any danger of being crushed by a multi-ton steam railway locomotive. And I just think, I just want to have, grandma's coming along, she's got bilateral cataract, she can't see. I want it to be nice and safe and just, I don't know, I've never really liked railway crossings. That's one of the things I didn't like about Neptune Park. One of the many criticisms I've levied against Neptune Park throughout this series, but yeah, you enter the park, and then immediately to get down the main boulevard towards all the rides, you have to cross a railway crossing, and I kind of want proper separation. Maybe that's the cyclist within me now who's been radicalized by having all modes of transport fully segregated from one another. I just wanted pure separation, which then introduced the next challenge of how do we even get the path to cross the railway track? We can't really go under it. As I've mentioned, I don't want to go over it, as in I don't want to go across it level with it, so we want to go over it, but I don't want to just have a staircase, because whilst that would be fine for most park guests, I wanted this to be disabled accessible. So if you're in a wheelchair or crutches or I don't know, arthritis, you can't climb staircases, I wanted there to be a ramp. But building ramps in Planet Coaster is really difficult to do realistically, because the actual gradient of the ramp is way steeper than it should be in real life. A wheelchair would not be able to get up those ramps. So I played around with a lot of designs that I didn't showcase in this video. I mean, I showcased one path layout, didn't I? I then removed completely and built something else. But in terms of the actual exit line, which you can see is a staggered ramp, I played around with a lot of different designs to try and come up with something that was realistic, but also unrealistic, because at the end of the day, the gradient of the Planet Coaster paths is just a bit too steep. And I think what I ended up with was a pretty good compromise. It's steep in places, but it is constantly staggered. So there's like a steep bit, but then it flattens. Then it's a steep bit, then it flattens. So I hope that this is kind of like a realistic, the most realistic compromise that would have been possible based on the restrictions I set out to myself. I know there is a way of getting shallow inclines on paths in Planet Coaster, and that's just like to very gradually increase the shape of the terrain itself, like build a little ramp out of using the terrain tools, have the path follow that terrain, and then flatten the terrain from underneath the path, and the path retains. I think that's how. No, it's not. It's not how you do that. I told a complete falsification. Let me try that again. You place a path piece, like just a singular round path piece, not connected to anything, and just adjust it to a very, very low height. Then connect it to a piece of path on the ground, and then the connection between the piece you initially placed and the path on the ground, that'll be a really shallow gradient. And then you just sort of build like increment. It's very complicated. I hope that made sense. I've never had that much success with it because I kind of suck at building paths in Planet Coaster, but then, you know, who isn't? Who doesn't suck at building paths in Planet Coaster? Mike Sheets. He's the guy, I'm pretty sure it's either Mike Sheets or Masked Bandit that I learned this technique from. I want to say it was Mike Sheets, but it could just as easily have been Masked Bandit. So don't quote me on that. It's those guys they're like the same person, right? They're both in Bro Nation. They build parks together all the time. They collaborate all the time, and I collaborate with Masked Bandit as well. I don't, but I was given a shout out in one of his videos. He's building a theme park at the moment, a small theme park. It's called Brazos Square, I want to say. I keep thinking it's called Bezos Square, but it's not. And he was mentioning in one episode, like, if you guys got any suggestions for names of attractions, so I should probably rewind. This is a park that's set in Texas. Okay, so and then he says, if you guys got any suggestions for names of rides or attractions that could be placed in the park at a future date, let me know. And I said, I'm going to be very disappointed if there's no Chihuahuan Dessert restaurant, because the Chihuahuan Desert is like the big desert in Texas. So I thought, hey, that's funny. You have the Chihuahuan Dessert. And and now that park has a restaurant called the Chihuahuan Dessert. And he gave credit to Matt Lowne, not Matt Lowne. Guys, my name's Matt Lowne. So bit of a lost the point there, but overall, I'm happy to have contributed to a Masked Bandit theme park. So, Masked Bandit, if you're watching this, you're probably not. My name is pronounced Matt Lowne. Huge fan, by the way. Make sure you buy my merch in the description. Got to get that plugged away. Like the video, subscribe. That goes to all of you guys watching. And as you can see, I didn't really finish the initial sentence of this video, and that was that we are building a roller coaster in this episode, but we have built a water coaster. It's like a log flume, but it's a roller coaster. And that's what I set out to build, and then I built. So I don't know if anyone was confused when I said roller coaster, and then very clearly built a log flume. But this is technically a roller coaster, but it interacts with the water, and it has a splashdown section that is much like a log flume, I suppose. And this was based on a real ride. It wasn't... I initially thought about basing this on the Flying Dutchman at Efteling, which is an amazing ride. But frankly, there is no way anyone can top Operator's recreation of... what did I just say? Flying Dutchman. So instead, I turned to real-life theme parks. And there is a theme park in... Gosh, I think it's a Dutch theme park. I want to say it's a Dutch theme park. It'll come to me in a second, guys. But it's basically a recreation of that ride there, largely. Like the beginning of this ride, so you exit the station, and then the boat carriage trundles along the track for a bit, meanders down a little river, and then goes up the lift hill. And from like where the lift hill begins to where the splashdown in the lake happens, that bit of layout is based on a roller coaster at Djurs Sommerland, which is in the Netherlands, I want to say. But yeah, I based another ride in this park on a ride in Djurs. I don't know how it's spelled. It's DJURS. I don't speak Dutch, so I don't know if that's pronounced right, but like to me that seems like Djurs Sommerland. And the ride in question, I was talking quite staggered there because I was just frantically Googling the word Djurs Sommerland, and I've got Google Maps open, but the water ride that I based is not annotated on Google Maps. If you know how to annotate things on Google Maps, please do this for me to save for future incompetent Planet Coaster commentators. They can make their commentaries. What was the ride? I'm looking at Google Maps now, just looking around the map of Djurs Sommerland, trying to figure out the other ride that I took inspiration from when building Adventure Woods. And for the life of me, I can't tell you. Not that ride. Maybe that ride? No, it wasn't that ride. This is an incredible commentary, isn't it? Maybe it was... I don't know. Hey, challenge in the comment section if you know the ride that I'm on about. And who knows if I'm even correct. Oh, maybe it was this one. This looks like it, actually. Hold the phone there, guys. It's, no, I don't think so, actually. Whatever. There's an Intamin. I was going to say there's an Intamin Megalight there. So maybe I based the yellow coaster on but that was based on Sick at Flamingo Land. So maybe I didn't base anything on something in Djurs. And I just completely made that up. Or I was just thinking about this coaster, and because it was a while ago when I filmed this footage to when I'm now recording this commentary. So really, we've learned absolutely nothing. But I still don't know the name of the ride I based it on. So I'm now just typing on Google Chrome, Djurs Sommerland water coaster. Let's go with that. Don't know if you can pick up my mechanical keyboard. All right. Oh, so I still can't tell you because it's a weird Dutch name. Who'd have thought it, right? In a park in the Netherlands would have a Dutch name. It's Skatteøen. So Skatteøen, and the O is the O with the strike through it. I can't remember what that specific symbol is called. It's not an umlaut. It's to be honest, I don't think it's even got a name. To be fair, I think it is just a letter that's unique to Nordic languages, and there's probably some other languages that use this letter as well. And I don't know. If you guys have ever seen the film Monty Python and the Holy Grail, first of all, if you've not, pause this video now and watch it. Brilliant film. Love it. Maybe it's just a British thing, but I feel like it gets mentioned a lot on Reddit, which is mostly Americans, so who knows. But at the beginning of Monty Python and the Holy... Oh, no, was it? Which is the one that had the subtitle gag? Was it Life of Brian or was it Holy Grail? I'm sure it was Holy Grail, but now I'm not sure. One of the two. Watch them both. They're both good films. Life of Brian and Holy Grail. But there's a bit where, there was a gag at the very beginning where the subtitles ended up being wrong, and this guy just started advertising for the Swedish Board of Tourism. And then he said, the moose might bite you, but the moose was spelt M, and then the two, instead of an O, it was the O with the slash letter that I'm trying to describe right now, and that's what it looks like. I could have just said it's an O with a slash through it, and that would have saved you all from that entire however many minutes that whole little tangent was. But I got to fill the time out somewhere. But I feel like overall, right, I don't know if I'm twanging my own banjo here, if you will, but I feel like this video has been it hasn't been too chaotic, this commentary. Maybe I'm in a better state of mind. I'm not recording this after a day at work, which probably helps. I'm recording this on a Saturday evening at 6 p.m, so I'm a bit more refreshed than I am after a full day at work. Now, granted, I've not had a super relaxed Saturday. I've been doing a lot of revision, as mentioned in the past few episodes. I'm doing a master's module, and my exam is in 6 days' time, guys. And I don't feel prepared. I'll never feel prepared. I've come to accept that no matter how much preparation I do, I will never, be ready for this exam. So I just need to bite the bullet and just take it at some point on Friday. But it's been a lot of revision on Friday, today. So I thought I'd just take a break and do some relaxing, commentating over some Adventure Woods footage, and upload that footage to YouTube. So and then this is the ride here. It's called Tidal Force. You might have seen me play with a few different names for the ride, including Moist Coaster, which would have been terrible, but also Slaughterfall. I thought that was pretty clever. So if I do another roller coaster theme park, why did I say another theme park in Planet Coaster and upload that series to YouTube, and I make a log flume, I'm definitely going to call it Slaughterfall. I really liked that. But for this ride, I decided to call it Tidal Force, because not only was it based on the... I did say the name of the water coaster at that Dutch theme park, because I was like, it's called Skatteøen, but I don't know how to pronounce that letter. Yeah, anyway, it wasn't just based on that. It was, but the station was based on another ride. It was based on the log flume at Drayton Manor, which is called Storm Force 10. So Storm Force 10, I don't know if this is like a universal thing or if it's just a British thing, but in the UK, when you're rating naval storms, particularly in the context of lifeboats, with coastal rescue boats, etc., you would rate a storm out of 10. So Storm Force 1 is not very rough, and Storm Force 10 is the worst. I think. I'm not a naval expert, you know. I don't. So I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Like Stormforce 1 is very little, if anything. Stormforce 10 is like, we're gonna sink. So that's why the ride in Drayton Manor is called Stormforce 10, because the theming of that ride is based on lifeboats. And I wanted my ride to be based on lifeboats as well. But the actual carriages, like the cars of the water coaster in Planet Coaster, and I'm well aware now that, oh no, never mind, I was about to say, I'm well aware the footage has moved on to something else, but turns out I'm back now. You can see the cars are based on, like, I guess, pirate ship dinghies, like the boats you get on, like, old-timey sailing vessels, so they don't really fit with the lifeboat theme. But I decided to just press on with it anyway, because I really like the aesthetic of the lifeboat station themed station of Stormforce 10 at Drayton Manor, and also because I really like lifeboat stations, like in the UK. Like, I live in a coastal town, and I grew up going on a holiday in, like, vacation in the UK, visiting UK coastal towns, and they often have lifeboat stations. So every little coastal town will have some sort of lifeboat. Small little fishing villages will probably just have like a little dinghy that's in a garage that's near the beach/main slipway of the town, and that just gets wheeled down into the water when it needs cooling. But like a big town, a classic one would be Tenby, which is in South Wales, British South Wales, not fake South Wales in Australia. Don't at me. Big towns like that, they will have like this big elevated building on stilts over the water with just this giant metal, effectively like a roller coaster track leading down that just disappears into the sea. And when they need to launch the lifeboat, the crew get on board the lifeboat while it's still in this elevated building. It then some sort of launch mechanism activates, and the boat will just slide down this roller coaster track on like this big carriage, and it just lands it into the water, and the boat just sails straight off away. They're really cool. I've seen a lifeboat launch happen. Thankfully, not like an active emergency. It was just they were just showcasing. I can't remember the context. I was like 10 at the time, but it was like a chilled. They were talking about it, I guess, like a demonstration, or they were just testing a new system. And they thought, let's just show all the normie tourists how this works as well. But either way, I really liked the aesthetic of the lifeboat house, garage, lifeboat stations that you get around the UK. And I'm sure they're not a UK-based thing, a UK-exclusive thing, I should say, but I've never seen them anywhere else because I haven't researched it. Like, it could be a very, very universal thing. I don't know. Here, certainly in the town I live in at the moment, well, I live in a city called Plymouth. So I think our lifeboat is just permanently in the sea, like permanently moored, ready to go because we're a big town, or a big city, I should say again. But I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I'm not a lifeboat. So take what you hear in this commentary with a grain of salt. I mean, that goes for all my commentaries, really. Not even just like Planet Coaster, but just Kerbal Space Program. I like to think my Space This Week ones are a little bit more accurate, but there's going to be mistakes from time to the time. Grammatical mistakes as well, it turns out. But yeah, I try and get that series to be as factually accurate as possible. So now I'm just sort of doing a few little errands around the park. We built the roller coaster. The main thing is done. But as mentioned, this ride is the final ride that I'm going to be building in this theme park, aside from the bus ride I'm going to be building in next episode. But we've still got 3 episodes to go. There's going to be a few things to be built. I won't spoil the surprise too much. But yeah, the park is largely done if we are building the last ride now. So now I'm just like going around the park trying to look for anything that needs finishing before finally calling the series complete. One of the things I noticed was these disgusting stock pillars. I hate them. Like these like bollard things, the entrance to the rides in Planet Coaster. They're kind of neat in the sense that they have the lights. Those red bands turn green when the ride is open. So at the moment, all of them are red because I've just got all the rides in test mode. To just have a nice sort of aesthetic background drop when I'm building other things in the park, to have the rides constantly going. But yeah, they look a bit naff, and I've mentioned before many times in this series that the way to get the best aesthetics in building Planet Coaster parks is to try and build a park that doesn't look like it was built in Planet Coaster. Like, there's no evidence of like glaring stock Planet Coaster stuff. So one way you can combat this is by having custom fences wherever you can, rather than the stock game fences, like when you place a path and enable fences. It's got a very iconic look. Same with the curbs. Curbs for paths in Planet Coaster by default are very big and bulky. And the other thing you can do is mask off things like those bollards at the entrance of rides, of ride queues, I should say. And yeah, speaking of rides, I'm placing one of these signs around. These are quite cool. I built these. I made that sign in Photoshop. It's basically a queue line indicator. If you guys have been to a theme park, you're probably familiar with what they are. It's just a little screen that tells you how long the queue is for each of the major attractions. And speaking of major attractions, here is one here that we've just built in this episode. And yeah, I've never built a ride like this. I don't think I even built one like this in Roller Coaster Tycoon. No, I think I did actually. In my most recent Roller Coaster Tycoon video I made on this channel, which was still in like 2016, I kind of dropped that game as soon as Planet Coaster came out. But yeah, oh, by the way, if you guys noticed a problem with this roller coaster last episode, don't worry, I noticed it too, that it's kind of death. Like, the carriages come way too close to this fencing in this area here, so I'm now going to address that for the rest of the video. Before, obviously, showing you the POV of the water coaster, I'm not going to deprive you guys of that. But yeah, what was I talking about? Right, yeah, I've never built one of the water coasters in Planet Coaster. I think I have in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, as just mentioned, but I've never done it in Planet Coaster, and I'm pretty happy with how this one came out. It's not quite as good as the ride that it was based on, because the... You'll see in the POV, which is going to happen in a second, there's like the initial lift hill, and then there's like a little curve, and then there's like a flattened out bit, and then there's a big helix that then flattens out again. And in the real one, the two flat bits are one on top of the other, and they share like a fire escape, and I just couldn't get things to line up in Planet Coaster. So that's one downside of my version of the ride. But speaking of my version of the ride, here we are. So I'll be quiet for like the big main part, but for this bit, it's all fairly slow paced. Oh, there's some leaves clipping through the water trough. That will go. I will fix that at some point, but that point is not right now when I'm capturing this footage, it would seem. Yeah, you might have seen me playing. Oh, I don't know if I cropped it out actually when I was editing the footage together, but I tried for this area here. I experimented with different scenery pieces and stuff, and I just couldn't get anything. I wasn't happy with anything that I came up with, so in the end I decided, hey, let's just stick with the theme of woods for this theme park and just place a few trees down and fence it off and just call it a day. Fencing there is obviously to hide the backstage area of the Dragon Rider roller coaster. It's not like super fenced off, but it's fenced off enough where you can kind of suspend your disbelief. This is where I'll be quiet here. I've got a wet bottom. Wait, I'm not actually riding the ride in real life, so why is it wet? Oh, no. Disgusting joke, sorry. But yeah, you might have seen the bit of the ride I was talking about. So there's the initial curve after the lift hill, then it sort of dips up gradually. The real coaster, it's actually flattens out completely into almost like a mid-course brake run. Then it does the main helix, then that sort of flattens out again, and yeah, I couldn't get things to line up, so I kind of changed the layout a little bit. But that's the ride there. So my only regret, I didn't mention, I started a tangent, but yeah, I wanted the boats of this ride to look like lifeboat rafts, to match the lifeboat house that matches the lifeboat house of Storm Force 10, the Drayton Manor ride. And I feel like, did I ever actually finish that? But that was what I wanted to say. And I also want you to watch those two video suggestions on screen. It's non-negotiable, watch them. I will find you, and I will ask you nicely to watch them.